The convenience is unmatched and unwavering, but we got news to get to today, including the fact that WWE is very happy and very excited about the, I guess, the reactions that the NXT talent have been getting in their main event matches or their matches on main event, as WWE has been calling up random NXT talent to a degree for matches on a weekly basis on the main event tapings, just to just to give the talent a look. And this number one is a breath of fresh air because it is something that did not happen under Vince, or it may have happened but did not happen nearly as often under Vince. And it's just something that WWE needs to do because it allows them to get the attention on the NXT stars, to know who's down there, to know who's ready to come up, and to know who might be getting some sort of, you know, who might be given some of an opportunity. Sort of like what I do with the news videos and using WWE 2K as the news videos, or for the news videos, it allows me to, sort of what I did with Alexander Wolf, just give people the opportunity to just be featured, because you never know what's going to happen. But Andre Chase and Axiom were featured on main event this week against, I know, I think Axiom fought. I think Axiom fought Cedric Alexander. Uh, I do believe Axiom fought Cedric Alexander, and and oh no, Axiom fought Mustafa Ali, and Cedric Alexander fought Andre Chase. But also, speaking of WWE, the WWE draft is something that usually uh, is something we see around the season premiere of SmackDown and Raw in October, or that's where we have seen it the last couple of years. But the draft was pushed back in favor of, I believe, in favor of changing Survivor Series, because it was always the last couple of years in the build up to Survivor Series. But with WWE bringing back War Games, they scrapped the draft for the fall, and it seems like, according to Dave Meltzer, that there is discussion of holding the draft after WrestleMania. And I think that is by far the best time to hold the draft if they're going to decide to hold the draft for the brand split, because it allows for an updated, fresh roster right after the season finale, which a lot of people refer to WrestleMania as the season finale for WWE. So the idea that WrestleMania is where you hit the refresh button on the draft, with the draft, for talent and storylines and feuds, and just both brands, you reset completely. You maybe bring in some NXT talent, whatever the case may be, and you just refresh and start over. It is much better of a time than doing it in the fall like they have done the last couple of years. So that is something that I think Triple H and those in charge made the right decision of moving the draft to the spring as opposed to keeping it in the fall. Speaking of moving things around, well, what's going to happen with Naomi? Because all the talk has been about Sasha Banks. What's going to happen with Naomi? Naomi has been one of the people flying under the radar. I know I've mentioned it a few times that I would love to hear what's going on with Naomi. Where's Naomi? Why hasn't she come back yet? What's going on? And, the fact of the matter is, there is no update on Naomi. As far as I know, as far as what I've seen, there is no update on Naomi. She is still with WWE, and there was talk of her contract possibly expiring, and WWE may have frozen her contract to make up for the lost time. There's a lot of discussion on that front. Initially, according to discussion, Naomi wanted to come back with Sasha Banks, but clearly that didn't happen because Sasha was out on her. I don't want to say Sasha was out for her own doing, but Sasha had her own ideas, maybe the more accurate way to put it. And, fact of the matter is, Naomi is still with WWE. I wonder if her husband being a part of WWE, Jimmy, being a part of the company, has anything to do with it. But she is still with WWE, and maybe we can get her back in for the Royal Rumble. Maybe they can work her way back in, because she is not the only member of the women's roster that is not with WWE at the moment, because Doudrop is is away, which is something that I am happy that WWE is doing more of. That if they don't think that they're going to use certain talent, that they can bring them, turn them away, send them away, give them a break, and bring them back after a while. Doudrop has been away. I think part of the reason why Doudrop has been away is because if you remember, her name on the main roster, her name in NXT was different than her name on the main roster. So Triple H may want to repackage Doudrop as Piper Niven and let her go back to the name she was using on NXT UK and in NXT, as opposed to keeping her as Doudrop and then bringing her back at a later date. But that's just something we're going to have to wait and find out about, because right now there is no clear, definitive report of what's going on that front. But what we do know is that Doudrop is somebody that Triple H was a fan of down in NXT, and maybe looking to repackage and refocus on the main roster, which I think if anybody has any question about that, Doudrop has shown potential, but it's just about some character investment and character development that needs to be acknowledged, and something that needs to be acknowledged in my opinion. And we saw this with the Bronson Reed debut or return. Well, technically debut because he's never worked on the main roster. But we saw this with Bronson Reed, that WWE needs to work on the idea of having vignettes and not just, or running vignettes to bring back talent and not just having the talent show up and be a surprise. Because the fact of the matter is, the talent may get a better reaction if you know who they are, if you know what they've done, and if you know where they've been. And especially if you don't have to show the footage of them working for other companies. You could show the footage of them working previously for WWE. So it's just the idea that you have the footage, you own the footage, and you still don't want to use the footage. It's like, what? What? I don't understand. I genuinely don't understand why they have avoided vignettes like they have. It's the same with AEW. I understand that AEW does not own as much footage as WWE does, but the fact is that even if you don't, you could still use some footage somehow, some way to bring in talent with a vignette and build the talent before they show up. Because I do agree that is something that is missing from these WWE returns, because you're not building anticipation, you're just surprising us, and you're expecting us to be excited about somebody that a lot of people never heard of or don't remember, because a lot of these guys were big in NXT and never had a run on the main roster. So if you never watched NXT, you're not going to know who these people are. AEW is guilty of it too, but the one thing AEW is not guilty of is they're not guilty of celebrity involvement, because Tony Khan wants more celebrity involvement, but has not brought together the celebrities just yet, but is working on that, because Rick Ross will be featured on AEW Dynamite this week, mediating a confrontation between Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland as tension continues to build between the former partners. I thought they broke up. I didn't even realize they were still together. But the fact of the matter is, they are still together, in fact, and it could be that they are building up for the, eventual turn. But the fact of the matter is, Keith and Swerve are together for now, and maybe, just maybe, before the end of the year, we will see that change. But the last thing I wanted to mention in this news video is that Athena, the new Ring of Honor Women's Champion, Athena will be defending her NXT or her Ring of Honor Women's Championship at a Prestige Wrestling event in the new year. Let me just check the name. She is defending it against Miyu Yamashita in Pomona, California. It is, in my opinion, the first time she will be defending, or to my knowledge, I should say, it will be the first time she is defending the Ring of Honor Women's Championship since she defeated Mercedes Martinez for the title at Final Battle. But one thing that is worth noting that was mentioned in a recent interview that Athena did is that when she was working for WWE, she had all these ideas, all these, possible, she wanted, she wanted to get on TV more. She wanted to get out of the lower mid card. She wanted to become a featured talent with the company, and she would pitch ideas to agents. She would pitch ideas to this person or that person, and finally had the meeting with Vince. I believe it was on an episode of Chris Jericho, Talk is Jericho, where a meeting with Vince McMahon was just where it was just basically impacted as, oh, you want character development, and the problem was a lot of the pitches she made were taken by other talent. So I would love to know the other pitches she made, but at the time, it was when Eric Bischoff had just taken over creative. So it's like, I think it was like 2017, 2018, give or take, right before she tore her Achilles. And she worked with Eric Bischoff to come up with the idea where Eric had this idea that that they would hold back her injury and she would become a disgruntled employee with a burner Twitter account, verified and everything. And she would troll the WWE shows, and it would be revealed that it was her. It would be revealed that she was injured. Obviously, they didn't go with that because I think part of the reason why they didn't go with it is because Eric got turned away from from the spot that he was in. The interesting thing is, I remember Ember Moon being. I don't remember her being on SmackDown, which Eric was the creative director for. I remember her being on Raw, but I mean, look at, check out eWrestling News. I'll post a link to it in the description. But it was an interesting, idea. And I think it would have worked. It's unfortunate that they chose not to go with it. I think, once again, because Bruce Pritchard took over the creative director position that Eric Bischoff had. But it's an interesting idea, and I think it would have worked wonders, to be honest with you, because it's something that's never been done before. I'm one that always thinks that the wrestling promotions should make use of social media a little bit better than they do. But just to point it out there, these have been my thoughts on wrestling, and the Prestige Wrestling event is set for January the 21st. With that being said, though, these have been my thoughts on wrestling. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you in the next one.